Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope that with Verdera Energy, I'm able to convey to you that we are finding ourselves in the right place at the right time here today. So Verdera is a new company, and we are in our final stages of our listing and our qualifying transaction financing. We just received our conditional listing letter this week, and we're closing the book on Monday for the financing of $20 million. We have just received a pending symbol. It is V for Verdera, so nice and simple on the TSX-V, where we're finding ourselves in a completing a reverse transaction with POC ML7. So disclaimer. So how did Verdera come to be? And with this, I'll have to introduce it's the first time in my career that I find myself on the stage with my husband, Bill Sheriff, who's the executive chairman of Encore Energy. Encore had all of the assets in New Mexico in their portfolio, and they are producing uranium in South Texas and very much uranium production focus, and the assets were in the pipeline. New Mexico has the largest resources of uranium in the United States, and it takes a concerted effort and a certain team. These are advanced assets. There's 400 square miles of mineral rights. What you see on the map, everything in blue, when they put the railroads through in the 1880s, the railroads were provided every other section of land in order to develop. We have the largest mineral rights position in the state. We have 88 million pounds of uranium resources, and the stars that you see there are the 4 projects that we have. Those projects are some of the highest grade ISR projects in the United States. ISR, if you're not familiar with it, is in situ recovery technology. All of our projects are not conventional, they're ISR amenable, which means it's wellfield technology. Uranium likes to be liquid. We use wellfield to liquefy the uranium that's in the aquifers, and we remove it. So Encore had these assets. They decided that they wanted to vend them out. So the transaction saw 50 million shares go to Encore when we close. 35 million of those shares are going to be vended out to their shareholders, and Encore is going to maintain about 14% of the company. We, as mentioned, are doing the transaction with the Power One Shell. Our main qualifying transaction property is the Crown Point Hosta Butte, and combined with our other assets, it's about 88 million pounds. A big part of working in New Mexico, and one of the reasons that they asked me to take this on, is community relations and community engagement. And with that, we've been working in New Mexico for over a year now, building relationships with other companies and within the community. We have a strong team, and if you don't know much about New Mexico, if it was its own country, it would have been known when it was producing as the 7th largest uranium producing district in the world. Our pro forma, when we complete the transaction, it's, as mentioned, it was $20 million and at $1 per subscription receipt, the book's closing. And with the completion, there'll be $27 million in the bank and 109 million shares issued and outstanding. We have a strong team. I won't dwell on it. Some of them are here in the room, but we cover all the bases, and you'll see that Bill Sheriff, also from Encore, is an advisor, as well as Mark Paliza, also from the Encore board. Having that relationship with Encore is very important as we advance these assets. They bring that production expertise, and I'm sure they hope that as we move towards those goals, they'll be part of our company. I'm sure people have spoken to you already about nuclear. 20% of the U.S.'s energy is from nuclear energy, and as you can see, in 1980, it was energy independent. It has a long way to go in order to be energy independent again. 40 million pounds as the world's largest consumer and producing about 1 million. nuclear can't advance without New Mexico for domestic energy. It's a vital and essential part of the mix. The resources there are large. They were an important part of nuclear energy's role in the United States in the past. The other thing that's important in what's happening right now in the US is the FAST-41 program. So under the executive orders, the White House has set up a permitting council. The permitting council takes applications from companies that want to fast-track the federal permitting. It doesn't provide certainty that the permits are coming. It provides clarity and timelines and assures that the goalposts are fixed. As long as the company meets the timelines, the government meets the timelines. So I'm just going to go into the portfolio a little bit. I'll try and use the clicker here to help a little bit. As you can see, Crown Point and Hoste Butte is our qualifying transaction. We just completed a 2025 technical report, and there's 28 million pounds. Most of them are in indicated. The other projects that you see on there, Nose Rock, West Largo, Ambrosia Lake, and Treeline, an example of the projects that we have within our portfolio and the ones that we're focusing on. And I'll focus on West Largo and Ambrosia Lake. I also want to point out one thing that's very important in New Mexico. Right here is a project called Grants Precision ISR. This is a private project. It's the largest and most important ISR uranium project in the United States. 170 million pounds. They are pushing forward through the permitting, and a very close colleague that we work on community engagement with. It's very nice to have a company that has significant resources that they have in order to push this project forward and help really build a collegial environment in the industry. So West Largo is the highest grade ISR project in the United States. A couple of things to know about these projects. They were all developed by oil and gas companies. So Kerr-McGee, Phillips, Conoco, and when they came in and they were producing in New Mexico, they would often drill very deep. So Nose Rock, for example, is at 3,000 feet, as is the Grants project. West Largo, as mentioned, highest grade, 116 million pounds. This is all on private land. This is one of the projects that we'll be advancing a technical report on in the next year, as well as Ambrosia Lake. And fully owned, as mentioned, on private land. Ambrosia Lake was a district that produced in the past. We have the southern 30% of the project, and you see it's every other section. So we own every other section. We will have to fill those in with land use agreements in the alternate sections. The southern part of this project was operated by Rio Algam, now with BHP, and they were producing through sort of an ISR light up until about 2008. They're producing about 700,000 pounds just from the underwater, in the underwater mines, sorry. So that's another one that will produce, that will advance, sorry. As I just quickly kind of summarize here, I'm really short of time, so I do want to say if anybody has anything that they'd like to follow up on, we'll be at the booth afterwards. One thing that we've done just recently, actually last week, is we acquired what's called the Kerr-McGee database. Now, Kerr-McGee was an oil and gas company that was the largest uranium producer in the United States. And they wrapped up operations after 3 Mile Island. Many of these projects were developed by companies like that. In the United States, data is proprietary, it's private. In Canada, it's all in a public registry. So we acquired that data. That combined with the data that we acquired from Encore, which is called the Uranium Resources, URI database, gives us the majority of all data in New Mexico. This isn't just data for our companies, it's data for all of uranium in New Mexico. So it's a huge asset for the company. It's one of the things that we'll be working on first. We just moved it into the office last week. We'll be working on scanning that. As mentioned, these companies often drilled to 3,000 feet, so with over 120,000 drill logs, we have a lot of work ahead of us. We'll be working on 2 technical reports, Ambrosia Lake and West Largo, and really pushing into the community and working to help educate people on in situ recovery technology, which was never used in New Mexico. It was all conventional, but we have had it tested on our projects. Mobil Oil had a pilot plant, I'm stumbling on my words, pilot plant on one of our sections, and tested the projects for ISR amenability and restoration. I should also mention that with restoration, with ISR, you can restore. It's a fairly simple process of rinsing out. We don't use chemicals, oxygen only, stop the oxygen, you rinse, and everything returns to its original land use category. I'll stop there. I've run out of time. Again, any questions, please let me know. We'll be at the booth, and thank you for your time.